Welcome to another Clyde and Lomond Heritage podcast. Myself, Paul Murdoch, and
myself, Robert Vale.
And I have to ask, Robert, why are you wearing that shirt by chance?
Well, there is a rule that I have, Paul, and I don't think that anyone over a certain age should wear a football top. But I've made an exception today, and I'm about 25 years beyond that age, by the way. But I've made an exception today because we're going to be discussing football in the Dumbarton, Vale of Leven area.
Okay.
You know the daft England World Cup song where they sang "Football's Coming Home"?
Yes.
Well, the oldest club in world football is, in fact, an English club. That's Sheffield FC.
Right.
But the very cradle of football in the world was this area. And we can perhaps include Queen's Park from Glasgow in that initial burgeoning of the sport.
The cradle of humanity.
Well, we're going to concentrate on 3 football clubs today.
Right.
Renton Football Club, the Vale of Leven Football Club, and of course, Dumbarton Football Club, very dear to my heart. Renton actually won the Scottish Cup twice, but the World Championship was a kind of unofficial title, and it was when the Scottish FA Cup winners played the FA Cup winners from England. And Renton...
But there weren't any other football teams in the world at that point.
Well, I'm sure there were other football teams in the world, but as far as organised football was concerned, it really was at that time only in Scotland and England. Perhaps, I'm not really sure what the case was in Wales and Ireland. And Ireland, remember, at that time was the whole of Ireland was part of the United Kingdom.
What about Europe, like France and Germany and all these places?
I'm sure that people played football in these places, but it hadn't got to the organisation stage that it had in Scotland.
So it's more official here, Louis.
It was more official with proper teams. We hadn't yet formed a league. It was cup competitions and friendly matches and challenge matches. And I'll tell you, well, we're going to go down a rabbit hole here, but one of the challenge matches was between Dumbarton and Rangers. This was in the 1880s, okay? And that was to benefit the survivors of a disaster, the Daphne disaster. It was a ship that had perished in the Clyde, and several folk had died. And so Dumbarton and Rangers played a charity match, and Rangers claimed their expenses, and Dumbarton said that they wouldn't claim any expenses. And the comment from the Rangers secretary at the time was, it's all very well for big clubs like Dumbarton not to claim expenses, but you know that their position was slightly more modest.
Conjuring club.
So there we are. But getting back to Renton and the Lomond Championship of 1888, we're going to jump around a wee bit.
Usually do.
Yeah. Well, Renton were formed in 1872, which interestingly enough was the same year that Dumbarton were formed, and also it subsequently became known that Rangers were formed in that year as well. But Rangers until about 25, 30 years ago, their acknowledged year of founding was 1873, but it was just old documents surfaced, and that improved that they'd been formed the year before. So Renton, I'm not sure of what date in 1872. I think Dumbarton was December the 8th, so they were probably the last of the 1872 people. However, having won the Scottish Cup in a 6-1 victory over Cambuslang, Renton, that by the way remains a record score in the Scottish Cup final, apart from Celtic. To this day, apart from one, and I remember it, the Celtic beat Hibs 6-1, and I think I'm right in saying that was 1972.
Okay.
About 100 years late. 100 years. 100 years after Renton's founding.
Okay, but no, I'm not after the match.
After the match. Yeah. But, so Renton in 1988 So they in 1888, as Scottish Cup winners, challenged the English Cup winners, West Bromwich Albion, and beat them. Now, scenes.
Despite the weather, apparently the weather was...
Apparently the weather wasn't great. And the interesting thing about that is that although it's trumpeted to this day that Renton had won that competition, Vale of Leven actually won it twice as well, and so did Dumbarton. Before that. Now, the Vale of Leven won twice, once against the Wanderers in 1878 in London, and then also at the following year at the first Hampden. Now, I should have that in my notes, but I have a feeling that was against the Old Etonians or something like that. No, sorry, Clapham Rovers. But in 1883, Dumbarton played Blackburn Olympic for the championship of the United Kingdom, which was the equivalent of the later trophy won by Renton. And Dumbarton beat the English Cup winners 6-1 at Boghead in February 1884, Blackburn Olympic. Now, a few months later, they played the same club again, and it's not actually known whether this was regarded as a second leg of the championship. That time, Blackburn Olympic won by 1 goal. So no matter how you slice it, Dumbarton were champions of the United Kingdom. Now, I think the reason that there was such a celebration of Renton winning it was that by that time, there was a trophy. Okay, but you told me that the trophy was only produced after the game.
I read somewhere that was commissioned.
You did a wee film when we had
It was the Vale Library just at the end of June, beginning of July. I think it was there to the 2nd of July, the actual World Cup that was commissioned for Renton's win. And so it was in there for the Vale to see, but I don't think that many people knew it was there or wait to see.
It's at the Scottish Football Museum or permanent.
It is, and I made a small film. In fact, the Clyde magazine also made a film about it as well, which is actually a good film to see. Mine's is quite a brief one. Theirs is a bit more detailed.
The Renton really, their star shone very bright, but very briefly. And really by 1920, the club had gone from their home in Taunton Park. And that was
Taunton Park's where the estate, isn't it?
The estate was built in the early 1920s. As you come into Renton, on your right-hand side, Renton also had a couple of pitches that we played on, which were adjacent to the station. But Taunton Park was where they were. And
that's the odd two of the football pitches are just now.
No. But although they did play there at one time, but they apparently they had a huge sign, the home of Renton Football Club, world champions.
Yeah, and there's a sign there now again, it's something about that. There's certainly a new sign in Renton that tells you a bit more about it.
Yes, and also, I'd love to see this, but in one of the houses, and I mean, they were built as council houses, but, now I'm sure a lot of folk have bought them over those years. Yeah. But one of the houses has a wee marker of the centre spot. In the back garden.
I thought you were saying the carpet.
No. It's in the back garden.
Really?
Aye. I've never been able to trace a photograph of it.
Well, if anybody knows, this box still exists in Sandbag Garden. You think, people know about that?
Yeah. The Vale of Leven Football Club, their very bright spell was in the 1870s.
Was that always at Millburg there as just now?
I can't be 100% certain, but I think it was. I think that's where they were formed and remained. If Brian Weir's watching, he'd be able to tell that.
And also, I did interview a chat from
or Fergus McClellan and that.
Yeah, Vale Leven Football Club on Lomond TV. So it's up on YouTube there.
They won the Scottish Cup 3 years running. Okay. In the 1870s, they were a big club. Now,
how many teams were in the Scottish Cup? And how many did they compete against? Do we know?
I think they would at least be around before the quarterfinals. So I think around a 16, something like that. It's a bit, but maybe
did Aberdeen have a team? Did Perth?
Aberdeen were fairly late to the. They were fairly late to the party. Aberdeen Football Club itself was formed in 1903.
Right.
So there were clubs before that. There was an Aberdeen Bon Accord team, and you know, I think they amalgamated with Aberdeen, and that the amalgam.
It was still quite a feat.
Yeah, well, it was a feat. All right. The reason that the Vale were successful, I think, was their business model, because all the players worked in Archibald Ewing's dye works in the Vale, and so whilst there was no professionalism, they had full-time jobs with a company who enjoyed the prestige, and therefore these players were let away early for training,
Right.
and they were encouraged to follow the sporting thing because Archibald Ewing then had the reflected glory of our players. So it was an early kind of sponsorship.
Say it's a wee bit of sponsorship.
Yeah, yeah. The Vale actually, unfortunately, in the second season of the league, which is a good bit on from their success in the 70s, in the 1890s, they finished their second season in the league. They failed to win a single game. And that dubious honour is shared only with Brecon City, who didn't win a single game in 2018. So, yeah. But between 1893 and 1902, the Vale only played friendlies, but successfully reapplied to rejoin the league in 1905, when the second division was expanded by 2 teams, and they were runners-up in 1907 and 1909. Now, if they get promoted at that time, I wonder if history might have been different. But in those days, not only did you have to be the winner or the runner-up, you had to have a vote by the other clubs in the first division, and unfortunately, Vale Leven Football Club didn't pass that. So eventually, I think, you know, after years in the wilderness, the Vale club just really kind of like wound up. I think,
Obviously still in the goal
oh yeah, they were. There was well.
for this day.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a different club.
Is it?
I think we can get into the arguments about different voice. Dumbarton actually, you know, if you want to say Dumbarton actually didn't play.
There's quite a lot of teams in the van, wasn't there?
There was Dumbarton Harp, I know, were a big team at one time, but Dumbarton themselves didn't play any matches between. I think it was 1903 and 1908. The club had all but folded, but they re-emerged and they played at the same ground, Bog Head. They played in the same colours, so it was accepted that this was a continuation of Dumbarton FC. And actually now, where there's been more recent shall we say, discussions about whether Rangers Football Club is the same club that was owned by the previous people and it went bust. Well, Dumbarton actually went into administration, and Dumbarton in recent times, you know, in 2024, and now it's a different company that owns it. As Mario has formed Dumbarton Football Club 1872 Limited, so that's different. But we're getting into a wee bit of different discussion.
I guess as far as supporters are concerned, they would see it more a continuous line.
It's a continuous line. I mean, Dumbarton, it was generally acknowledged that they celebrated their 100th anniversary in 1972 and their 150th anniversary in 2022, there was a special strip bought out and all that sort of thing. But Dumbarton, they too had 3 cup finals in a row and eventually won the cup against the Vale of Leven. Now, that was quite a scene in 1883 because both the Vale team and the Dumbarton team returned on the same train.
Right.
And it was...
Where did they play the match?
They played the match at Hampden.
Right.
So there was 50,000 spectators at the game, but there was 2,000 people had excitedly gathered in Dumbarton High Street, some not believing the rumours that had filtered down to the town that they'd won the Scottish Cup. But eventually, before 9:30 p.m, a telegram was sent out and confirmed it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that before 9:30 p.m. was actually the brass bands had gathered. I think that's after it had been confirmed. And there was three brass bands: the Dumbarton Rifle Volunteers Band, the Academy Band, and the Catholic Brass Band.
Yeah.
And when the train arrived, See the Conquering Hero was played, and the Vale team sportingly cheered the Dumbarton team off the train,
That's nice.
as they would, very sporting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Apparently they were so sportingly treated later on.
Well, yes, that's right. Well, the winning team went to the Elephant Hotel, where there was a reception for them. The Elephant Hotel was in the middle of the high street, and each of the team appeared at one of the upstairs windows as the vast crowd, the royal family, yes, the vast crowd below, cheered the team. Now, I love this wee passage from Jim McAllister's History of Dumbarton, so I'm going to read that for you. This note of sportsmanship was somewhat spoiled the following Monday when some of the Dumbarton team with their friends were returning from Lomond on two wagonettes. As they passed through the Vale, and it seems emboldened by the excessive refreshment, they made plain to the locals in Alexandria how proud they were of their victory on the Saturday.
Right.
The Valeites took exception to this effrontery, and some rough and unseemly scenes followed. Including the pouring of 2 pails of slaughterhouse blood over the occupants of the wagonette.
Seems a wee bit extreme.
Well, there you go, 1883.
Aye, take us.
So,
Some black pudding was getting made somewhere.
well, I would imagine probably at that time there was a slaughterhouse in the Vale, because there wasn't the same transport options.
There wouldn't be the same rules around it either.
No, that's true.
No.
Yeah.
So aye, well, it seems a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, then Dumbarton, after that, their glory years, if you like, were in the 1890s. And the 1890-91 season was the first league season in Scotland. Now, I don't have the league table here, but Dumbarton and Rangers ended up with the same number of points. And whilst this would have been settled quite amicably and forcefully, in fact, in these days, because goal difference would come into play. And if we take Dumbarton's goal difference, it was superior to Rangers. So Dumbarton were,
Funnily enough.
the first champions. However, they had to settle it somehow. So they went to Cathkin Park, the home of Thurb Lanark Football Club, and had a game there, and that resulted in a 2-each draw. No penalties or anything in those days. So I think the team in the following season won the league outright. So 91-92 season. So that's one thing that can never be taken away from Dumbarton, was that they shared the first championship and won the second Scottish Football League championship.
Fantastic.
There we are.
Yeah.
And just to say, I mean, obviously, subsequent events were that the big city teams were going to kind of take over, weren't they? And
Well, they had a population to draw on, didn't they?
yeah, we did. But before we start going on to that, I've got one wee thing to mention, if I can find where we were. Yes, here we are. On January the 1st, 1892, Dumbarton, the league champions at the time, faced Celtic in a friendly at Parkhead in front of a 15,000 crowd. New Year's Day, we'll keep that in mind. And Major Buck kicked the game off. Do you know who he was?
His name's familiar somehow.
Major Buck was the manager of the touring show of Buffalo Bill. And they were in Glasgow at the time. So we'll have no joke about cowboys or anything like that. But they had their show in Glasgow Green at the time, and I'm told that several of the cast attended this game. I wish there were photos.
So there's horses and coos running about the park?
No. I think I'm talking about the human.
Well, maybe they just came out and did that whole on top of the horse.
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure there would have been something like that. Yeah. So
Might even be a picture of that,
Right, there might be. I would love to see it if there is. If you can find it, we'll put it on the podcast. So, tell me this, Paul. On January the 1st, 1892, what do you think the score was? Dumbarton playing an away game at Celtic at Parkhead.
Well, this score line has come up quite a lot, so I'm going to say 6-1.
Nope.
Okay. I know that was a bit
No,
optimistic, but
it was a bit more convincing than that, in fact. The score was Celtic 0, Dumbarton 8.
What?
Celtic 0, Dumbarton 8. And the thing was about that, I think there were rumours that perhaps the Celtic players had enjoyed themselves a little too much at New Year.
All right.
At the Hubmanay the previous night. Whereas the Dumbarton boys, all like good Dumbarton players would always do, went to their bed early, realising that the game the next day. But you would be surprised, actually, Paul, because in some of the correspondent for the Lennox Herald at the time was called the Wanderer, and he used to write about the games in quite a matter-of-fact manner.
Okay.
And he would say, well, it seemed that Dumbarton players had maybe a wee bit too much whiskey to drink before the game.
Before the game, they were the Dutch curries.
Yeah. So anyway, a brief history after that, after Dumbarton. They went on. They were in and out the top league till the year 1922 when they were relegated. And I started supporting Dumbarton.
1923.
No. When I started, well, Dumbarton got to the Scottish League Cup final the Scottish League Cup semi-final in 1970. And my dad thought it would be a good idea if the family went up to cheer Dumbarton on. So we went up to see that game. And then Dumbarton drew 0-0 with Celtic after extra time. And we then went to the replay, where Celtic threatened to sweep everything before them. They scored 2 goals. They were 2-0 up, only for Dumbarton to rescue the game in the second half. And the final score was 2 each, hence extra time again. Well, Celtic, this is a full-time team, Celtic, who had been in the European Cup final earlier that year, their second European Cup final. Went to 4-2 up against Dumbarton in the first half of extra time. Now, one of the goals shouldn't have stood because they all curved out, and again, only for, I think it was Lou McCarry to score the 4th goal for Celtic.
No.
And at the last, Dumbarton scored the 3rd consolation goal, so it was only 4-3.
Okay.
And if that goal for Celtic hadn't stood, those 2 games kind of planted the seed of me being a Dumbarton supporter. I actually supported one of the big Glasgow teams, but we won't say which one at the moment. But when it came to me, 71, the following year, I'd asked my dad if I could go to football matches on my own. And he said, well, you're not going to Glasgow on your own.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll buy you a season ticket for Dumbarton. Oh, Dad. So, well, remember how well they did against Celtic, and remember that they're your local team and they're strongly fancied for promotion. So I went to Dumbarton and I've been going ever since. So 71-72 was their centenary season, and I was fortunate enough to see Dumbarton.
Over 50 years.
Over 50 years ago, yeah. And I was fortunate enough to see Dumbarton's best team and best performances, I think, of the 20th century, because they get promoted as champions of Division 2 that year, went to Division 1, which was the top league, and actually stayed there for 3 years until the league was reconstructed and they brought in the Premier League. But in 1984-85, Dumbarton was in the Premier League. That's the last time we saw top level football, 41 years ago.
Wow.
But
so Renton really finished up in the 1920s, eh?
Renton finished up before 1920. I think when Celtic started to gain a bit of traction, I think a lot of the Renton players went to Celtic, and also there was Renton lost players to to some English teams as well. But I think there was a kind of correlative
I'm just thinking of the front.
climb and dive between Celtic and Renton as Celtic invest. Yeah. And I think maybe a lot of the supporters that supported Renton, ended up supporting Celtic too.
I was just thinking about in those days a player moving to an English club. I mean, that would mean giving up their job, taking their family with them.
That's right.
Was there any kind of equal compensation for that? I wonder.
I would imagine, yes. There was transfer fees, but not in anything like what we see now.
Obviously, drop.
In fact, at one time, Falkirk, where they splashed out the biggest transfer fee, and it was sometime in the early 20th century.
Right.
And it was £5,000 for a player from down south.
Right, that's back in the 80s something.
Well, I don't know. I can't be accurate about the date there. I know several Dumbarton players went on to play in England. One played for Everton. Can't remember his name just at the moment. But if we look at the kind of team that Dumbarton had in the late 19th century, there was two players called Brown, and one was called Plumber Brown, and the other one was called Sparrow Brown. So I don't even know their Christian names.
Just nicknames.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we need to wrap this up. But if we just say that Dumbarton now, they're back relaunched. Mario Lapointe, a Canadian businessman, bought the club over, bought them out of administration, and we have just had a synthetic surface laid at the Rock, which is now the official name of our stadium. The Rock this year sponsored by Marble Coaches. And so the future looks bright. We've got a women's team, we've got an under-20s team that are doing well, and all these teams will be playing at the Rock.
You got one of the most dramatic pitch sites ever.
Absolutely. And that was once sold, the club to Mario. When V watched it, he watched you'll have seen the videos by Pics by Pedro.
Yeah.
On
And there's ways to play side everyone about the stadium as well, obviously.
Well, they're made by Peter Jarvis, who's an absolutely incredible guy with the drone footage.
Oh, yeah,
and I honestly don't think that Mario might have taken just quite so much notice without those dramatic videos. So thanks, Pedro, if you're watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things lead to other things.
Yes, they do.
Listen, thanks for watching, guys. As Robert said, total blank when it comes to football. I did like playing it when I was younger and stuff like that, but I kind of drifted away from it and went into music, and for some reason I didn't have the energy to do music and football.
Well, I never did any.
You didn't go?
I didn't really. I wasn't a player. I played the odd game for the BBs, but no, I was too left feet, I'm afraid. So, but I think I enjoyed watching football.
Yeah, and I still watch obviously the European matches and the World Cup no way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks. I've learned a little bit, and hopefully some of you have learned a bit out there. I've learned a bit too.
Yeah.
And until next time, bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.